our invited panelists. Well, it's great for having this opportunity to meet with all you, the expert in the field, on the web and also physically here in person. And today, in this session, we are going to address the issue relating to climate and education. And just like the UN emphasized, education is key to addressing climate change. Yes, the education can encourage people to change their attitude and their behavior. And also, it helps them to make informed decisions. And for those young people in the classroom, the education could be to teach them the impact of the global warming and also to assist them to learn how to adapt to the climate change, especially the incoming and the under-threatening extreme weathers. And certainly, the education can also empower all people, and especially to motivate the young to take action, which is critical and very important for our future driving of the climate action. We all know that the global stake tell us the gap is huge and the window is narrowing. So people are under the threat of survival. So here today, we would like to introduce to our audience 3 very important experts in the field to share with us how can we teach and grant education to the people, ranging from the young to the adult, so that we can really back up the future work of climate action. And I'm going to introduce all the panelists separately in detail later on. But here, I just like to make a quick recital. And the first one that we are going to invite will be Professor Li Wugen. And secondly, I would like to invite our former Deputy Minister of the EPA, Professor Ye Xincheng. And thirdly, we will invite my colleagues, also the professor from National Tsinghua University, who is, I think, the most famous energy expert in the field in Taiwan, Anton Gao Mingzhi. Okay, so let's welcome, first of all, I think I should introduce you first. I know, I almost forgot my job, okay? And the first panelist I'm going to invite will be Professor Li Wugen from Korean University. His background is really amazing. You know, he's specialized in several fields, and he's now serving in the Division of Environmental Science and Ecological Engineering, and with under a very unique and special department, the Department of Climatic Environment. I consult him. What's that for? It's the integration between climate and technology. Wow, that's really helpful. And also, he's the director of the O.J. Young Resilience Institute and the director for the Institute of Sustainable Development, and also Director General for the Moonsuk Science Foundation. And he also served as the chair of the SDSN-Korea and the MLRN. And certainly he's the member of the Korean Academy of Science and Technology. It's a long list of the background. It's great. It's great. And it's very much appreciated that we can have you here to share with your very leading educational planning. So let's welcome Professor Li. You can have the stand, please.
Thank you very much, moderator. Introducing myself. Yeah. Not this year. Actually, I have worked as a professor at Korean University for 26 years, I think, and 2.5 years left for my retirement. So, yeah. So I'm very happy to be here with you all. And thank you again for inviting me to this good event. Dr. Ching-Ming Cheng is my very good friend since 9 years. And I admire Dr. Peng's activities not only in climate change, the forecasts, the disaster risk reduction, but also this kind of activities. Actually, as you know, for the professors of universities has 3 kinds of responsibility. The one is, of course, education. Second is research. Third one is social contribution as an expert. And I have worked really hard for doing my research and education. And as you, the moderator, introduced myself, I have so many titles in not only in universities, but also in out of campus. And my department is a kind of a unique name, the Environmental Science and Ecological Engineering. Another one is climatic, can I say climatic, Department of Climate Environment. But actually, we had very difficult times 20 years ago. At the time, the Korean government just very strongly pushed any universities to reshuffle their education system for having better competitive powers. So my background was actually forest planning, but at that time, the forest planning department was not so attractive for the young people. So we found the new department, environmental science and ecological engineering, as a reshuffle of our education system. And we open also the Department of Environmental Climatic Environment for addressing climatic issues. But I think always confused what kind of responsibility of professors is important for young scientists. As a professor, research is our own job as a professors. I'm very good, relatively good for doing research, but I'm not sure I'm a good professor for educating the undergraduate student. Educating a graduate student can be good for me, but educating the young student, undergraduate student is not so good because of our interest. There appears a kind of gap between professors and the young students. So today I would like to introduce just my experience of research and education and some kind of activities activities out of campus. How can I the next slide? I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. First, the research part. As you know, the use of fossil fuel during our time has resulted in unprecedented changes in the Earth's material cycle, leading severe environment and climate crisis. And we need to actually the basic science for addressing this kind of changing environmental crisis due to material cycling distortion. But still in Korea, applied science is popular comparing to basic science. So Korean Ministry of Education and Korean Ministry of Technology supports a kind of institute for doing basic science for material cycling. And I got a grant from government for 9 years with almost 12 billion won, actually 10 billion US dollars for 9 years for doing basic science research on ecosystem material cycles in response to environment and climate crisis. It was very successful for me, and I set up the research topics, material cycle between land, ocean, atmosphere, within soil, vegetation, and atmosphere. It's a very good topic for our research group for the graduate student. And we would like to expand this kind of our research performances to Korean Peninsula, including North Korea, the other middle latitude region countries, including Mongolia, Northern China, and Central Asian countries as a policy for globalization. It was very successful for me. I would like to share my experience for education. Actually, as I told, my background was forest planning, but these days I cannot educate, I cannot open any classes regarding forest planning. My classes is GIS, Geography Information System, and remote sensing and climate change adaptation. There is no classes for old traditional name, forest planning and forest measurement, something like that. These days, Ministry of Education and Ministry of Environment support so-called flagship universities for educating the young undergrad student as a green leadership certificate. As an education part, my institute, Ojong Resilience Institute, was selected as a new flagship universities for green leader certificate. It was also successful for me. And then I found there are many classes regarding climate change and SDGs, but I found there is no linkage or relationship among these classes. Individual professors open individual classes as their interest. There is no systematic the class opening system in Korea University. And also for educating young scientists, young students, actually, we needed to their need. We needed to know or consider their needs. I found that there is a very strong differences or gap between professors' interests and young students' interest. For example, the professors' interested professors are interested in global issues or national issues and in relation to their research grants, research and development, so-called R&D grants in Korea. But we need to think what the young students are interested in. I'm interested in climate change for getting grants, research and development grants, either governmental grants, either company grants. Students are also very interested in climate change, but their interest is a little different from professors' interest. They would like to identify their curiosity for climate change, and they would like to find their interest. They would like to find what they are interested in through finding their curiosity. And then for helping students for finding their interests, education, just the teaching is not enough. We should help them to experience some things through internship program. So I think the internship program for giving opportunity students to experience some things with their own actions, not teaching in classroom, action in out of campus. It is very important. So we had a very different organization. We have a very good relationship with many different organizations for having better internship program for young students. It was also successful. But I found in the university, I think in the same case in China and Taiwan and other countries, it is very difficult to open one classes in the universities. Climate change is very, very popular for the young students, but it's not easy to open one classes for climate change. So most of classes for young students is non-regular classes in the universities. We get the so-called the UNESCO ESD official certificate, Education for Sustainable Development. It was very honorable to get this kind of a certificate from UNESCO, but it was not a regular class. It is non-regular class. For that, personally, I needed to find my extra time for having this class. And students also should find extra time for having these classes. We need to include this kind of education activities in the university as a regular class. So far, I would like to, I shared my experience in terms of education and research. It was good for graduate students in terms of research, and it was good for undergraduate students with the non-regular classes. Then we needed to, as a professor, I needed to do something out of campuses. I was served as a co-director of UN SDS in Korea, and then I did a lot of activities with the young scientists or young students, and then we encouraged the Korean National Assembly to take or to enact so-called the Framework Act on Sustainable Development Law in Korea. And we developed a lot of solution-based actions for local government. But for that, I should have spent a lot of time for this kind of actions. So I think always research is enough in the universities with the research professors and research staffs and graduate students. But education for undergraduate students with the global issues, climate change, SDGs, and weather risk, something like that, it's not enough. So we needed to open this kind of classes for young students, and then we could educate young scientists. As my activities out of campuses, I was director of also Korea Climate and Environmental Network. We developed so-called Climate Action 1,5 app So we have many followers for that. And we developed the daily actions for kids and youth. And we developed easily showcase how to act carbon neutrality with the webtoon, image, and movies. And we helped kids and youth for identifying their curiosity, what can happen when they change their habits to climate neutral behavior. And then we expand our this kind of app society to the high school. And then we develop also many quiz time and action diary and event and also content for climate change information. And then we develop also mini game. This the climate action 1,5 was very popular for young high school students and middle school students and elementary school students. It was my last part for discussion. I think green leader or eco leader should understand. I think every university would like will have a plan to educate the so-called green leader. I think a green leader should understand global issues and know how to solve the global issues and should act something with the partners, friends, and colleagues for solving the global issues. And then universities, so-called green university, should act for combining research, education, activities together. Personally, as I told, my research is enough good. My education experience is enough good. My social activities enough good, but it was not integrated. For myself, I need to integrate this kind of activities. And global society should link this kind of research and education to society. In Korea, Hyundai Foundation found Green Society clubs, and they support universities to transfer the research and education experience to society. Thank you very much. That's all from me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lee. We'll save the floor discussion after two other panelists finish their presentation. But here, I think I just make a very quick summary about what Professor Lee has contributed to the world. I think I would just call this as kind of the Green Leader Program and promote it with your very generous, dedicated intention. Well, it's really, really appreciated. And dating back to 20 years, then you finish your profession development, and you just give us a very important words. You mentioned that the good education may not just only count on a good literature. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And then you introduce to us a very systematic educational program, starting from the finance and good design. And I just find some similarity between your program with the one I found in MIT, starting from the material flow. That's really scientific base. And then you move to the collaboration and sort of building a national hub, right? And then you try to do the inventory of the courses and develop a kind of the international internship program, especially the certificate program. And you also empower this program with the UNESCO ESG certificate project. And also you sounds that bring in several network for this, in addition to the education for sustainable development and also the Asian Sustainable Campus Program. And I think that's a very good, somehow a hint for us to follow up in the near future. And I think on the line, we are going to introduce to all the audience a very famous sustainable development educator in Taiwan. And he is Professor Ye Xincheng. And I think he's a leading environmental education scholar in Taiwan, and now he served as the director for a newly reorganized, right? It's a sustainable development and environmental education. I mean, the Graduate Institute for that, and he served as the director in Taiwan Normal University. And also, before he started his teaching, and he once served as the deputy minister of the then EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and then turned to the administrator without portfolio. And after that, he served as the professor so far, and he keep running on this position. And recently, I know he published, I think probably the very first book about sustainable development. And maybe later on you can show us on the screen about your book. Okay, let's welcome Professor Ye to share from his perspective about the climate and education. You can have the floor now, Professor Ye.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fan. Okay, I'll share my slides. It's my pleasure to present what we have done in terms of climate change education in Taiwan. From Taiwan, I know you are in COP28. My topic, I named my presentation as climate change education through transformative approaches in Taiwan. Yes, just as Professor Fang said that I'm working in an institute which just changed the name to Sustainability Management and Environmental Education. It used to be Institute of Environmental Education.
Sorry, so, Professor Ye, we didn't see the slide.
Oh, really?
Please try it again. Yeah.
Okay, I try that again.
Okay, it's running.
Okay, good.
It's a wait. Let's wait. Okay, here we are. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm now working in the Institute of Sustainability Management and Environmental Education. So we just try to expand our spectrum, try to be more inclusive, include more people to work for climate change education and also environmental education, and with more dialogues with business. Also, I'm teaching the National Taiwan Normal University. Normal means training teachers in old times, but now we are a comprehensive university. Okay, Professor Lee just mentioned many things related to university research and also for graduate and undergraduate students. My topic today will be focused on the elementary and high school students in Taiwan. As you must have known that the World Economic Forum told us that the major global risks in the next 2 and 8 years, 2 risks, increase in living costs and the failure of climate action. So what we are going to expect may not be realized because of the failure. So climate change, well, one of the most important challenges, especially for the future generations. So 13 years ago, in the year of 2010, UNESCO just announced a new framework. They combined climate change education and action for sustainable development to a new framework, which is called CCESD. It means that combination of the two things. So at that time, I think it was a very new concept. 30 years after, I know the UNESCO is still promoting this, but in Taiwan, in old times, environmental education is one of the most important framework for national environmental policies. And I was also in charge of Environmental Education Act in Taiwan. And climate change education in our system, in our educational system, is under environmental education, which is good, but because of many administrative reasons, in elementary and high schools, those teachers will not get involved in climate change education if he or she is not involved in environmental education. So it causes problems. According to the CCSD framework of UNESCO, we hope that the students can learn perception and have some basic understanding related to climate change. Then, because of they know mitigation and adaptation, and then they can take some actions and have some commitment. Just like what we have learned from the business sections that if we finally take action to buy something, we need to be aware of something, know the goods or services, then like them. Then finally, we can take actions. So still, we follow the streamline. We follow the procedure from knowledge to attitude and action. But now, just like I just mentioned, in Taiwan, in the curriculum level, the level of climate change education is relatively low in the whole curriculum system. And because of the educational system for the formal education systems is highly centralized, the government announced guidelines, and we need to follow very details of the guidelines. And also for the educational system level, education system is just focused on examinations for academic advancement. I think, it's a common sense for Asian countries. And also in the implementation level, the teachers lack systematic training related to climate change, and they don't have sufficient teaching time. They always focus on those relatively more important courses like mathematics, English, science, or social sciences, and also we lack of systematic educational materials. Okay, and then several years from the year of 2020 to this year, I was involved in a project to conduct the climate change literacy for many different kind of groups, for example, like elementary and high school students, teachers, and also our government officials to understand their climate change literacy. And we did find something. Well, actually, we find that the attitude drive climate actions, not knowledge. Even some of students have a very good knowledge, but the knowledge alone will not drive real actions. And we also found that very low student engagement in climate activities. Well, one of the reasons may be because climate change is not a controversial issue in Taiwan, not just like those situation in the United States, because nowadays in the US, basically 40% of people did not recognize that climate change is as a real issue. But in Taiwan, over 95% of each of the groups thought climate change is real and we need to do something to combat climate change. And also, we also found that teachers acknowledge climate change impacts on students' careers, especially for those senior high school students, senior high school teachers, because their students need to select the department, select their professions in the university level. So what we try to do this year is try to promote climate change education through education project sponsored by our Ministry of Education. So we try to develop CCSD framework and try to communicate with those teachers and the students in elementary and high schools to let them understand what the definition and the framework of a CCSD. And we established some demonstration schools and developed some CCSD modules. So other students and other schools can use these materials. And we also held some competitions and also we offer some resource sharings for 5 years of working. I think we have accumulated many resources. And this year and this year, we held climate change education camps for senior high schools, working with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. And also, we try to develop a framework for climate change education. Although it does not exist in our formal educational framework, but because we think climate change education should have its role as a independent and also higher level education. So we invite experts, schools, teachers, principals, professors, try to edit this new education framework for those who is interested in environmental education, climate change education. Okay. So we did some case studies from demonstration schools. As you can see, many schools, the kids did different kind of things. And also, we had some lesson plan competitions. And as you can see, we held our ceremony in the Taiwan Climate Action Expo this year and the last year. Okay, so we work with MIT, Taipei City Science Laboratory, and especially this summer, we have several scientists and undergraduate students directly from MIT to help our high school students teams trying to establish some real project combining climate change issues and the AIoT. Okay, so that's what we have done this year and this year. And that's Michael Lin. He's Taiwanese and he's also a graduate from MIT, is now in charge of the Taipei Laboratory of MIT. So we work with them and those directly from MIT Media Labs. And we also invite many students to visit the Climate Action Expos. I think it has been held for 3 years. And also, we have our programs exhibit here to make more people understand what we have done. Okay, so that's a presentation of the high school students. They demonstrate what they have done, and especially to do some real project with the chips offered by MIT, and to make it an AIoT technology project, and to demonstrate what the objectives and what kind of problems they are trying to solve. Okay, so this year and the last year, it's a very good opportunity for students to articulate their ideas and to show their project achievement. So because we have a lot of audience in the expo, so we have 12 teams of high school teams, so they can share and they need to talk to the general public in expo for one whole day. Okay, so now we have some challenges, especially because CCE, climate change education, is marginalized in Taiwan's educational systems. We have the challenges of dispersed educational content, also systematic material shortage, unclear educational objectives, and also because we, I think including South Korea and Japan, we have an examination-oriented educational system, and while in Taiwan, especially, we have a fixed, inflexible, centralized curriculum framework. But now we have an opportunity because early this year, we have a Climate Change Response Act passed early in 2023. And in the Chapter 5, Education and the Grants, in Article 42, we have a totally new setup of settlement for the climate change education, because especially we said promote sustainable development oriented climate change education in schools at all levels, train teachers, research and develop teaching materials to cultivate future interdisciplinary talents for climate change. So we just connect the framework of in our Climate Change Response Act to the CCSD framework of the United Nations. So we can look forward. So we just change from a situation that the CCE is relatively low in the overcharging curriculum, but now we can expect that the educational status of climate change education now significantly elevated. But we need, I think we still have to remind our government and all systems that the settings has been changed. So we need to do some transition work to make our climate change education in Taiwan can be fit into the UN CCSD systems. Okay, so that's an introduction of the situation in Taiwan. I hope that we can have a discussion later. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ye, Director Ye. Well, just like I mentioned, we are going to have the group discussion later. I just try to catch up some point that you addressed. I think you bring us a very good scenario about the CCE plus ESD. Well, it's a good and very, meaningful integration indeed. And you try to mention us about what we can do for those pre-college students. And it seems that you try to build up a kind of systematic approach for other high school or even the elementary school student or teacher to follow. And you've been doing a lot of work to do the research. For instance, you try to identify the hierarchy system of the educational effect. I think this rare that we didn't see before. And it's something like equal to Professor Lee's presentation. Yes, from the academic advancement, that then we moved forward for the implementation. And you also try to let teachers to assist the students to understand what the climate change's impact on their careers. Well, that's very important as well. And here you have done something also different from before, just like you try to turn the change about the perception of transformation. And before you end up with end up your presentation, it seems we've seen some progress, right? Maybe you can comment on that later. And from my impression, it seems that you've been working trying to develop a solution for those institutes education. And you've done that and a lot of demonstration and exhibition in very popular arena. I think that's quite convincing. And just like I mentioned, I have seen some clues about the similarity between the MIT and Professor Lee's program. And I also see you have done some extensive application of the MIT approach. So maybe later on you can can say something more about this. And after I listened to your presentation, I think what's the most important and major difference between Koreans' experiences in Taiwan, that should be the finance. If you can have like 10 million US each year, I think you can really make a lot of difference. Okay, thank you for your presentation. So for the third panelist, and he's been waiting online for a while, and I know that he's going to introduce to us about a very interesting topic. That's been the how to educate through entertainment. Well, that's very interesting. So Professor Gao, he's my colleague. He's now teaching in National Tsinghua University of Taiwan as a full professor. And he's been majoring in the energy law and also the environmental law, especially in regard to the European climate change and energy legislation as well. So you may have the floor now, please. You forgot to turn on your microphone.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
So can you see my slides now? Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. And thanks for the introduction of Professor Fan, and thanks for the wonderful speech from Professor Lee and Professor Ye. And actually, if you compare with like environmental and the climate education master, Professor Lee and Professor Ye, I'm quite new in this area. But my approach is kind of a little bit grassrooted. But I'll try my best to introduce my idea with all of you. And about me, actually, as Professor Fan just mentioned, actually in the past, I was very enthusiastic in this kind of interdisciplinary energy SCI publications, and I try to do a lot of interdisciplinary research work in the past. And but recently, maybe since start from in the middle of the COVID-19, and I changed kind of from the energy social science researcher to try to integrate this social science research into the education. And I begin to receive research funding from the Ministry of Education to develop some education training for the sustainable energy. And as you can see, under this kind of very big group, and I'm now the PI of this kind of problem-based learning interdisciplinary workshop for net zero transition. And as you may all have this kind of experience, because as a law professor or as a professor, actually, we are kind of, in order to attract student attention, we tend to invite a lot of guest lecturers from this kind of very big company or from the energy think tank, and to teach students about what is the very important issue under the net zero transition or the energy transition. But from my experience, I kind of very frustrated, because even though we got this kind of very, very rich or very powerful guest lecture, and they spare their time to give a lecture, but it is very difficult to inspire the students. in my class, actually, I also try to integrate this kind of table game. And in Taiwan, now the government or the private company, they try to develop several type of this kind of table game or card game, so for students to play. But for me, usually the presumption of this kind of table game are kind of too far away from the reality, in my view. So, and also, it is usually it's very difficult to combine this kind of fun plus reality, because usually I found out the background knowledge for the reality of like energy transition and net zero transition is very difficult. Usually you need to have electricity engineering, mechanical engineering, economy, or political science, law, or etc. So it's very difficult to combine this kind of things together very quick. So in my view, actually, in the past maybe 2 years, and I try to develop this kind of game of simulation of the citizen assembly for the energy transition. And as you can see here, I try to develop some kind of this kind of discussion game, and for students to discuss the energy transition issues. And I try to develop this kind of idea of the citizen assembly on renewable energy future of Taiwan. And because in Taiwan now our government has set this kind of very difficult targets of 20% renewable electricity targets by 2025. And I choose this kind of topic is because this is very hard and heavily discussed in the media. So for the students, they may be more how to say enthusiastic to talk about this issue. Particularly, it is very relevant to their economy future maybe. And how to conquer this kind of complex, we need to have this kind of very comprehensive background knowledge issue. And of course, I think during the workshop, it usually took like 4 hours for a workshop. And at the beginning, of course, we still need a lecture on the kind of Taiwan energy policy of 2025 or certain net zero policy for 1 or 2 hours. And then afterwards, I try to develop this kind of card games relating to the barriers and the solutions. And they will play this kind of game for like around 1.5 hours. And I try to design this kind of challenge and the solution card for different renewable electricity. And as you can see here, we got this kind of the challenge card here. For example, in Taiwan, kind of usually people, for example, usually the local people, they are against the project because of the not in my backyard thing, the problem, something like that. And I also provide some solution card. And as you can see here, here is some kind of demonstration, because the red card is just like the idea of a red light. So you can see the red card may be relating to the barriers of certain renewable electricity project. For example, now the red card stands for the environmental and the ecology problem. And then we have this kind of green card. Green card means green light, means solution. We let the students or the group to choose different and renewable electricity technology, and they are going to get a car for different red car and the green car, so they can put this car and to organize their relationship. And as you can see here, this kind of game actually, I find out actually this kind of table game is really interesting, because this is perhaps the only table game can reflecting the real world, because we use the real problem and the real solution, and on the back of that you can see the web link for the real problem and the solution proposed by the government. And my idea is very simple, because we are not going to use to let the student understand the very complex idea of energy policy decision making, But we try to use this kind of very simple link again. You can see barrier 1, and then they can use, and for some students, they even can out a lot of innovative ideas. And I think the magic of this kind of cards are very important, because now, as you know, the students are very familiar with this kind of mobile phone and the Google search function. And usually during our energy education, we tend to give them or flood them with too many ideas. But actually, in my view, in all the design idea of my workshop, actually, I only want them to learn some keywords, and then during again they can use the keyword to find out more information. That's my ideas. So, and I find that this kind of simple ideas actually will make them to play the game very happily. And according to my implementation experience, it's very interesting that we have tested this game among professors and the university student, senior high school student, junior high school student, and even elementary school student. They can play this, they can criticize over this kind of decide a solution for the government. But interestingly, guess who performed the best? Actually, some of them might think maybe it's professors, but actually it's not. I will give you a very surprising answer. The group who performs the best is the senior high school student instead of university student. And the reason may be because the senior high school student, I think they are still kind of very open-minded, because they didn't choose any like engineering or social science or law as their future career. So kind of they are very open-minded, and the student of this age actually they are very creative. So maybe that's the reason why the senior high school student performs the best. And here is the newsletter I would like to share with you about how we arrange the whole game. But unfortunately, it's in Chinese, but maybe you can use the Google translation or Professor Lee. If you would like to know more, and please feel free to contact me. I can explain to you the idea in detail. And actually now have to already developed workshop to the 7 key strategy of our net zero roadmap, Taiwan's net zero roadmap. As you can see, we developed the game for the hydrogen, for the geothermal, for the CCSU, and even the carbon-free electric vehicles. And last month, actually, we start to launch a new model on if the energy policy follows the public poll or your poll results. And the student was quite happy with to play this game last month. And in the future, we are going to touch upon the very difficult issue, particularly the circular economy, and particularly the just transition. And I think how to play the just transition is still very difficult for me. So maybe this month, and start from this week, the next week in my class, I am going to try to develop a teaching model for this kind of just transition. And hopefully in the future, if I can, perhaps after this kind of after my 3-week classes, maybe I can share more with you in the future. Okay, and finally, that's the end of my presentation, and I would like to hear your opinion. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Gao. Well, it's just like a good match, right? What Professor Gao mentioned is just like a followers of Professor Lee and Professor Ye. And here, Professor Gao tried to give us a good example about how to inspire students' passion. And but he also mentioned that you are not only playing game because it's not real. You need to bring together the fun and the reality, especially to match with various disciplinary needs. So here, he starts from a student citizenship assembly, which is just like to bring students to the very fundamental democratic system, right? And then he tried to bring in a kind of scheme to let students under or figure out what the barriers are, and somehow to inspire their independent consideration, and then to provide some solution for their random or maybe independent pickup. And then that will come up with something as a result. And that's the very objective learning pathway to bring students not only listening but also build up their own system of judgment. And that's fantastic. And in regard to his keywords approach, I noticed that you bring everyone except public official. So maybe you would like to make a comparison and see how they find the difference between this group's choices. Okay. And anyway, when you mentioned the conclusion about what's the best or the most efficient group, you say that's the senior high, right? The senior high students, and it's just like you find the roots of the rationality that we can build up some trust on our education. Anyway, thank you for your presentation. So we have about like 30 minutes left. So we will start our deliberation. So I will have Professor Lee stand here together with me. And certainly we have Professor Ye and Professor Gao on the screen, so we can start our deliberation. So first of all, I would like to ask, will there be anyone here and also on the web like to ask the question? And I noticed that it seems Dr. Peng is going to raise some questions, right? You would like to say something?
Actually, thank you for all the professors here. And this morning, I was invited by Professor Lee to go to the Korea Pavilion. Quite amazing. Korea University integrate all of the department and institute, and also you work with enterprise, link together to make a big ecosystem for the climate change. You think very detailed about this. So, Professor Lee, can you describe, maybe give our professor more idea what we can do or cooperation in the future? Because the Korea, you have the idea to train a master degree student and also PhD, and work with some developing country together. And also you work with to train the government official higher level to do this. How can you do this? It's a big plan by the Korea University.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, maybe you would like to comment on what we've done in Taiwan too.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah, thank you very much. Actually, as you know, I don't know in Taiwan and China, but in Korea, we have very big problems besides climate change. Actually, we have aging problems with the low birth rate. So we expect in 2040, so the number of students in the university will be half. Will be half, but comparing to this time. And the military, the soldier and military service will be half also in 2040. So in the universities, many universities try to have foreign students. And then I think always, what should we do for having more foreign students? The current education or research system doesn't meet the this kind of university's plan for having more students, because most of research topic it's just for Korea. And then if even we have good students from foreign countries, they cannot be interested in this kind of research topic for Korean Peninsula. then I think for having better for more the foreign students, that we need to have the global issues for our research topics or education topics. So I think Taiwan and China can have a similar problem. And if China, Korea, and Taiwan and Japan work together for having global issues and for having a better solution-based approach, research approach or education approach, then our countries, Korea, China, Taiwan, Japan, have a better research system and education system with the global students together. That's my idea.
Well, that's very good comment. I mean, just like Professor Ye would like to add on something, because the change of the perception is critical. And what Professor Lee mentioned has been that in this Eastern Asian countries, I mean, several of the countries, well, they might want to work together and to seek for the possible and the future education collaboration for our next generations, because we need to enable their capacity to encounter the future challenges. And also, we all face a similar question, right? The shrink the number of the population of the students. But on the other hand, the students need to know each other's country culture sooner or later, so that they are able to encounter the serious challenge from climate change, right?
Yeah.
So that will be very important. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And so Professor Ye would like to also comment on this issue too.
Yes, I do think this is very important to understand not just the local issues, local energy or climate issues, but we want our students to understand climate change is a global issue, and but it should have some local context in each of the countries in the world. But for Asian countries, I think we do have some common backgrounds. So if we can work work together to for educational systems, I think that will be powerful. Because for the project, I mean the CCE project sponsored by our Ministry of Education, the limitation, as I just mentioned, is the limitation is our national curriculum guidelines, because everything was framed in the under the guidelines. So if we can work with the other countries to understand the educational systems, educational concepts, maybe for universities, senior high schools, junior high school, and elementary schools, I think perhaps the government officials in our government can understand more about the possible changes and the possible pathways for the future. Because I think all of the discussions, according to my experiences from the past 5 years, are just too local. Just mentioned everything's in Taiwan. I don't think we have discussed what the elementary or undergraduate students in Korea did, or in Japan did, or in China did. I think we must have, if we could establish some connections, I think that will be helpful. I think for Taiwan, that will be very helpful. In terms of well, Ministry of Environment or Ministry of Education, I think they will be. I think they will feel glad to understand more about this.
Yeah, that's right. I think that maybe later on we can talk about the possibility to bring in Director Ye's program into the International Internship Program of Professor Lee's system. And also, I think it's quite interesting for this Asian Sustainable Campus Program. Well, something that we can think about to bring this linkage together too. And especially when Professor Ye mentioned about the elementary and senior or junior high school students training, well, that's your field, right, Professor Gao? You would like to follow with this discussion?
Okay, thank you. Thanks. And I think my idea is always playing the game for the because I always think it is more inspiring and will encourage students to how to say to participate more actively during the discussion. And actually, I think Professor Lee and Professor Ye's idea of if my idea can contribute to any of your research or program, I would be very welcome to share the experience with you. Because in my view, actually, if we can broaden this kind of game to a more international scope, perhaps we can let the origin from South Korea, Taiwan, China, and Japan, and then they can share with the experience of different barrier and the solution for developing certain kind of renewable electricity. For example, now I think during the energy transition, I think the rooftop solar panel is very important to achieve this kind of net zero goal by 2050. But I think the barriers exist in all these countries when in achieving this kind of goal. So if we can draw the students from different countries together and they can share the experience of this kind of barrier and the solution, maybe they will come out very creative idea for maybe not for the game itself, maybe also for the government of different countries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it seems to me that Professor Lee, you build up an ecosystem, and Professor Ye will bring in a programmatic somehow project, and Professor Gao is even bringing into some kind of workshop planning and hands-on climate change learning type of the work. So it seems that it's possible that all you three could just link or work together for something new, right?
Yeah. I totally agree with Professor Gao's mention. Professor Gao mentioned the traditional education doesn't inspire young students' passion. I totally agree with that. So as I showed you the one of the organization for which I'm in charge of as a director, the climate environmental network in Korea developed the kind of application, the Climate Action 1.5. We include small games and quiz, something like that. And the students, young students are the elementary students, school and middle school are very interested in this kind of small things. So I think it will be good for us to develop together a kind of this kind of application and the games for young students with the global issues, something like SDGs.
SDGs.
As I understand, the Tsinghua University is very active for SDGs. So then we can select some goals and then we can develop together the games or quiz or something like that.
So maybe you can give us some clues to reach for those information later on. And I think Professor Gao must be very much interested in exploring all this interesting field. Okay. All right. And then now, Professor Ye or Professor Gao, do you have any other question you would like to ask Professor Lee?
Okay, I have questions because Professor Lee just mentioned the Green University Network, Asian Green University Network. Because okay, I was in charge of the Green University Network in Taiwan. Well, I think that's 10 years ago. So how the network can help universities in Asia to exchange information or to well, make their own campus sustainable, and how this can combine with research education in terms of climate education. I hope that I can understand how to think about this.
So in short, how to make the network work.
Yeah, we have a very many networks in Korea itself. Also, we have also network Asian Sustainable Campus Network, something like that. So actually, in principle, we did to encourage young students to take a part in these activities, and then as a professor and institute's director, we need to develop a kind of the funding source for young students together. We can invite young students to do something together, and then we can encourage them with some small funds.
Yeah.
Mm.
So maybe I would like to encourage Professor Ye that you communicate with the Ministry of Education. Maybe you can seek the opportunity to do maybe 1 time or 2 times the cross-country network
Yeah.
workshop, something like that. And so your group could learn with Professor Lee's group from each other. And then you can both broaden the coverage of the network and then learn how to drive the network be functioning in the future. Yeah.
Yes, because our network in Taiwan, including everything, not just from elementary and high schools, but also colleges. So we have a complete network about climate change education in Taiwan.
So maybe you can both seek for the opportunity to do something for the network collaboration. Yeah.
I would like to suggest one things. Actually, I work together with Dr. Jim Ming Peng for weather risk reduction program, and then in next year, our Ojong Resilience Institute, for each I'm in charge of the director, have 10 years the anniversary, and then I plan to have a series of events for celebrating 10 years the foundation. So I'll discuss with you together, Professor Dr. Jim Peng, for having the concrete network among us. That I'll discuss with you later and keep in touch with you.
Well, sounds great, right? So I will ask General Secretary Peng and to do this in the near future to assist us to build up a kind of the collaboration network sooner or later. And he's busy right now. I'll talk to him later because I think the time is about up. So we have about 2 minutes left. And so Professor Gao, have you any other comment or any question you'd like to raise?
Maybe I would like to answer Professor Fan your question about why there was no public officers participating in our game. Because the main reason is because our research project is funded by the Ministry of Education, and just Professor Ye knows the target audience for the Ministry of Education is for just students. And the public officers, they are not consider themselves as students, so we are not going to educate them. That's a very simple answer to your question.
Well, anyway, that's just the losing puzzle that you can make it up sooner or later. Because Dr. Peng just got back to the seat, and subject to Professor Lee's comment, and we will ask a favor from you to assist 3 of them to promote a possible future working network. Okay, and they could seek to each other's contribution and maybe build up some kind of the new network in the near future. Yeah. Okay, that's for you.
Yeah, actually, Professor Lee, we know each other for 9 years. 7. 9. No, 9. 9 years.
Anyway, I was wrong.
Actually, we are close friend, and his expertise very strong network in
Yeah.
Korea.
Yeah.
So I think in the future, probably all professor, we can have some kind of a dialogue. You have your platform, we can link it each
network.
other, network
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah,
Especially,
also is a very big network.
for example, today when I went to the Korea Pavilion, I saw you have very strong network with enterprise. You got university and enterprise very strong link together.
Yeah.
That's the Taiwan. We should
count on
be-
you. Count on you.
Yeah. So in the future, we are one team, especially in Asia. We can go together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So time is run out soon. Okay. Now we are going to finish this session. So any more or maybe some last writing from Professor Ye or Professor Gao and Professor Lee. Okay. So thanks for Professor Ye and Professor Gao. Your time is it's late now.
Let's make a photo, please.
Okay. Let's make a photo. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. You turn to the
Yeah.
camera.
Okay.
Okay, we have gift for you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ye, Professor
you.
Gao. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.